The way that this is going to work is I'm going to be sharing my screen and essentially walking through an account setup from essentially setting up the settings to drafting a first post to sending that first post and then giving a quick run through of the various features. So the way you're going to get the most out of this is if you have two screens, maybe have the video pulled up on one screen and have your newsletter pulled up in another screen. If you only have one screen, that's fine. You can follow along on the video and maybe switch back and forth. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it can be helpful to follow along. Most people, it's going to be very much like a intensive workshop today. Cool. All right. We're going to get started. When you log into your account for the first time, your account will look a little bit different because we have an onboarding checklist that we show you to get the quick start stuff out of the way. Once you get through that process, your dashboard will look something like this. Usually these numbers will be zeroed out if you're starting from scratch. Once you import some subscribers, this might change a little bit. But just so we can see the overall chart, I'm actually going to pull this back to all time so we can see a bigger, or maybe last 12 months. I think it's still within that range. Yep. So it's going to be my performance over the last 12 months. We'll go all time because I guess I haven't sent an email in the last 12 months. I guess it was sometime last February when I started doing this. But we can see on the dashboard, active subscribers, open rate, click-through rate. You can adjust, obviously, this time frame to view those metrics over shorter time windows. We also then show where your traffic comes from, where your subscribers come from. And then there's some various tabs here that go into deeper depth. So an audience view, so you can see over time using these histograms, your growth and in terms of new subscribers, as well as engagement based on each of your posts. So just a quick view of your various posts. And then we have this dashboard for sharing monetization metrics. So the amount of money that you will have made from boosts as well as premium subscriptions. We'll get into what those actually are. And sometime soon we'll be linking our ad revenue into this dashboard as well. I like to start these out starting from scratch with the settings so that we start from kind of first principles and basics. When you first start your account, there is some information that we ask for you as you go through onboarding. So some of this information is going to be filled out by the time you get here, but it can be valuable to understand how the accounts are structured. Essentially, if you can think about the hierarchy of an account, we have workspaces that are akin to like your business or the entity that you run your business or your newsletter through. If you don't have a business associated with your newsletter, that's okay. Just think about it as like that workspace that holds all of the work you're doing. And then within a workspace, you can have one or multiple publications that are owned by that workspace. And we call them publications, not newsletters or blogs, because all of our content lives either on web, email, or both. And so we do that because in today's world, you don't want your content just to go to your existing subscribers. Typically, you want to have a way to share that with the outside world and other folks who may be discovering your newsletter. We provide this way that if you want to run a blog through beehiiv, you can do that. If you want to run purely an email newsletter, you can do that. And if you want to run a newsletter that kind of bridges that hybrid world, you can publish on both email and web. And so the terminology we use is publication. So a workspace can hold multiple publications. You can see I have a bunch of them right here. Every time I have an idea that crosses through the smooth brain of mine, I create a new publication and never touch it again. But by default, on your launch account and trial, you'll have one. If you upgrade to our scale or max plans, you are able to expand the number of publications you run through there. We also have some features that if you are running multiple newsletters, we have some workflow features that make managing those multiple newsletters a little bit easier. Workspace name goes up here. This is going to be the global default for the footer address per CAN spam regulations in the US. We're required to put an address at the bottom of every email. By default, it's going to be our company address, but you can change that here, and we definitely recommend that you should. And then you'll see all your newsletters or publications, as I should say, right here. If you work with a team, we have a bunch of collaboration features, which we'll get into in a few minutes, but this is a way that you can invite users either to workspaces or specific publications with varying levels of permissions, contributors being the most restrictive and basically can only be writers, up into admins who have full control. So there's 6 different types of permissions you can provide, 2 like permission levels, and then 3 user roles for those 6 different levels. You just enter the email, select the combination there, and send the invite. If you ever need to remove them, you can just click on this menu right here and edit or remove them. When it's time to upgrade, this is going to be the screen you come to, the billing and plan tab, where you'll see This button will say upgrade. You'll click that and it'll show you the plans that you have available to upgrade to. If you ever need to downgrade, this is also where you'll do that. You'll see your last payment, your next payment, and the payment date, as well as your billing information if you ever need to change that. This is going to look a little bit different just because we're on a house account within our system, but self-explanatory enough. If you are a little bit more development minded, or you have a team that you're working with, or you need to integrate your beehiiv account across your tech stack, not only do we integrate really seamlessly with 10,000 different tools through our API and combination of no code tools, we also have an integrations gallery that we actually launched today. But otherwise, if you want to build something custom, say you're using one of these AI coding tools and you want to build something completely brand new, you can use our API to access any data within the beehiiv account. That's really useful if you want to sync, for example, your subscribers with an external source, or pull all of your articles that you've written through beehiiv into a third-party CMS. You can operate your beehiiv newsletter as a kind of headless newsletter system where you publish everything through a third-party site, but your emails come from here. Or you can host everything on beehiiv. It doesn't really matter, but we give you that flexibility. Lastly, as I mentioned, here's the integrations gallery. These are just a selection of the top tools that we get the most requests about. We have several. Most of these are going to be, at this moment, ones where we have templates with no-code tools. However, our first native integration launched today with StockTwits. So if you're a finance writer or you have interest in getting into finance writing, we have a tool where if you publish with the StockTwits integration, it'll publish directly to the StockTwits ecosystem, which is basically essentially like a concept that's basically Twitter, but for finance writers and things like that. But this is not an exhaustive list. We integrate with pretty much, I think it's like 10,000 plus different tools. All right. So moving from workspace settings to your actual publication, in here in the general info, this is where we're going to see the publication settings. So this is all pretty straightforward. Publication name, description, logo. You guys are smart people. I don't need to go deep in that. Default thumbnail is going to be the image that shows up on your website when you publish to the web if you don't set a custom thumbnail. And if you don't set the default thumbnail, it'll just be a gray placeholder logo. So definitely be sure to update that default thumbnail. We definitely recommend custom thumbnails for every post as well. Publication tags help us categorize your content in your newsletter. So what this allows us to do is when somebody's looking for recommendations within our recommendations network, this helps categorize your publication so it shows up there. When we're provisioning ad opportunities through our ad network, this is one of the key signals that our ad team uses to identify relevance and audience fit. Pretty self-explanatory. Default languages, if you're a non-English speaker and you want to publish, or if you just want to publish in a different language, we have 7 different languages with native support, and then your default time zone will be set automatically. If, for example, maybe you're running a newsletter for an internal organization, a PTA, a company internal comms, an investor newsletter, church or organization, whatever, and you want to make your content private, but you want members who are on your list to be able to view it, you can toggle this box right here to turn your newsletter into, or turn your publication into a private publication. This is going to make it so that only users who are subscribers to the publication can see the content. And you'll have to essentially define those subscribers by doing some sort of list import or adding them manually. If you want, for example, to allow users to request approval, which means they would come to your private publication and basically see a box that lets them submit their email, then you can toggle the box to require subscriber approval. In that case, users would enter their email and then basically you would get a notification and you'd have to manually approve them. I'm seeing in the chat that T is saying they can't see anything. Are we able to see my screen? I should be sharing a screen and sharing a settings view. Even zoom. Cool. Yeah, awesome. Good to know. And I'm actually noticing I should zoom in for these. That's actually really helpful if I can zoom in. Okay, cool. Thank you guys. T, it might be your network. If you leave and come back, maybe that would help. Yeah, I've done like 8 of these and I've never thought to zoom in. So apologies for everybody who's had to deal with that and lost their eyesight because of me. Cool. All right. So moving down from here, private branding. If you're on our Max plan, you can toggle this to remove the Powered by beehiiv badges on your publication. Some users want to do that. If you're more marketing minded and you're growth minded and you want to manage manually your UTM parameters that we deploy automatically, you can change them here. I highly recommend just leaving these default. They automatically tag your post so that if you're sending traffic elsewhere or you're sending traffic to maybe a main website, these are really helpful in detecting and understanding in the analytics tools where that traffic is coming from. But if there's some reason you want to turn that off, you can toggle that button right there. Moving into the actual email sending itself, under the emails tab, we'll set the sending details. So this is going to be the name that shows up in the user's inbox. If you're running a publication where you have lots of different writers, maybe it's a news organization or a local newsletter or something like that, you can actually toggle this to make it be the sender, whoever's sending the post sends as their name. Generally though, like 90% of people, I would say, tend to send from just a organization-wide sender name. This is what it's going to look like in the user's inbox. If you want your users to be able to hit the reply button and respond to you directly, you can set a manual reply to address. By default, this reply to address is going to be the email that you signed up for beehiiv with, because we confirm it and we make sure that we know it's a real email address. If it's not a real email address, users who respond are going to get one of those messages saying email can't be found. Footer details, this is just how you can customize the footer with the copyright and address as we talked about before. Fairly important here, preset emails. There's several emails that we give you by default that are sent automatically. I actually have this turned off because I send my welcome series through the automations feature, which we'll show in a few minutes. But if you don't plan to upgrade to the paid plan, we do provide a welcome email autoresponder for all users regardless of plan size. It's basically when somebody subscribes, they are sent the welcome email automatically if it's turned on. You can click into here to configure that email. Double opt-in is a feature that requires users to click a button to confirm that they want to be subscribed. It's a best practice from deliverability experts that ensure that users not only are receiving your emails, but they're seeing it in their main inbox. The trade-off here, one, you get higher open rate and better deliverability. The trade-off is you tend to grow a little bit more slowly because on average, I think probably about 80% of subscribers actually go through the double opt-in process. So you are going to lose some subscribers along the way who, for whatever reason, get distracted and don't go and click that active opt-in. Smart Nudge just basically gives you the ability to ping them 48 hours after if they have signed up but not confirmed that double opt-in. If you're one of those folks who are importing content coming from another platform, we support these platforms for automatic content imports, so one-click imports. If you are on a platform that's not on that list, unfortunately, it means that they don't provide the ability for us to do a one-click content import. But yeah, if you are coming from those, these are some of the more popular platforms to come from. Similar with subscriber import, you will not see this where it says 100,000 subscribers. By default, yours will be 10. And then if you go through an automatic or automated verification, identity verification, you can up that to 10,000. And if you need more than 10,000, our support team is on call. And this is a prioritized list to up that subscriber limit. So if you are migrating like 20,000 subscribers from your existing newsletter, you'll just have to fill out a form that describes where you're coming from and how you got those opt-in, and you'll be able to then see your historical imports right here. If for any reason you ever need to leave beehiiv, we don't hold your data hostage. All of the data that you create and that you bring into beehiiv is fully portable. So all of your subscribers, all of your subscriber data, all of your post data, if you do use our monetization tools, all of those transactions and all of that data is run through a Stripe account that you own. You have to bring your own Stripe account. So there's no data that we hold back from you or restrict you from taking with you. So it keeps us accountable so that we're always working in your best interest, and there's nothing that ties you to our platform if you don't want to be. One of the more popular areas of interest is connecting an existing website domain. So we allow users to set up a custom domain on their account. So this would be for a publication like Vacation Voyeur. My default website might be vacationvoyeur.beehiiv.com. I have it so that I've bought the .com domain and have set this up so that when people type in this website, it's going to take them to my beehiiv site and is going to show up in the browser. You can see up here, it's going to show up as this in the chat. We've done a ton of user experience testing, written a ton of documentation around this. I'm not going to go into the details because basically we have a very straightforward walkthrough. The actual DNS record setup is done automatically. We have a tool that will do it for you. Literally, you just have to follow the instructions on the screen and enter the domains where you're prompted to, and that'll get set up for you. Again, if you're interested in kind of the development world of things, or if you're building tools to connect your beehiiv account with other platforms, we also, in addition to access to our API, one of our paid features is access to webhook. So this is accessible in the trial, but essentially you can think about the difference between the API and webhooks being that the API is essentially reaching into your beehiiv account and grabbing data from your, reaching into your beehiiv account and pulling out data. Webhooks, by contrast, originate in beehiiv and push that data somewhere else. So if you want to, for example, notify another platform when you have a new subscriber, you would do that with webhooks. If you want to run a job daily where this other platform is reaching into beehiiv and getting a list of all of your subscribers, that would be API. We also have, I think, 6 or 7 different endpoints. So you can do, it's not just when you have new subscribers, there's unsubscribes, subscribes to paid subscriptions, downgrades, new referral tiers created. There's, I think, 3 or 4 others aside from that. So very flexible. I mentioned bringing your own Stripe account. Once you start adding your Stripe accounts to the account, this is where you will manage those connections. And lastly, we have 2 different ways in which you can integrate and use RSS feeds within your publication. The first is you can generate an RSS feed that is then accessible to your subscribers. So they can take that RSS feed and add it to their preferred RSS reader tool. Alternatively, if you want to ingest or bring in content from an RSS feed that comes from somewhere else and you want to bring it into your beehiiv account, if you're on our Max plan, you can add RSS feeds here, and then those will show up within the account under the RSS widget in the editor, which we'll cover in just a few minutes. Real quick, before we get out of settings, I do want to stop for an opportunity to answer any questions. I'm sure Tony has been doing a great job fielding any that have come up that are fine. Yeah, I'm not seeing any responses from us. Yeah, I think this time Riverside is just trolling us by just taking away all of our functionality. But yeah, no, I can take a look at these. Let's see. We got some questions in here. Sorry, guys, about that. So Tony, I'm talking to Tony, or I was talking to Tony a second ago. I'm talking to you guys now. Tony has been responding, but apparently our responses are not showing up in the chat. So very sorry about that. But curious if we have any tips on to make that content move from Substack. I will talk to our team. That shouldn't fail. I'm not sure why it would be. I know that we have a bunch of people that move over from Substack. Maybe Tony can ping the team and see if there's something that other people have experienced or if there's something like a setting that needs to be changed in Substack. So you can't use beehiiv to create new domains. You have to purchase your domain through a third-party tool like Squarespace or GoDaddy or Namecheap or one of those website hosting tools. So you'd go through that process to buy the domain. Once you've bought the domain, you can come and you can set that domain as your beehiiv, where your beehiiv account lives. Yep. Within your account, not seeing any other reports of issues there, but if you go to the screen up here where it says help and you click here to create a ticket, our support team will be able to interface with you directly to help. And with that note, let me actually go through some of those functions here. So I scrolled a little bit. This is just still huge because my screen is huge. This is probably a more reasonable size. I'll get back zoomed in a second, but just want everyone to see. Within your dashboard, we've covered the settings. We covered this menu up here. If you do start to run multiple publications, you can basically switch between them with this drop down up here. You have your settings over here. So if you click on your profile picture, you can change personal info. So this can be first name, last name, email, that sort of thing. Account security is going to be password resets and 2-factor authentication and whatnot. Notification preferences are going to let you set your preferred preferences around receiving emails around different things that are happening in your account. Learn is going to give you access to all these resources, and then view site is going to take you to your site, and log out is going to log you out. You guys won't have access to this. This is going to be your notification feed, so it's going to let you know when there's new opportunities for ads or when they're going to expire and whatnot. This is there's nothing on it right now, but this is our calendar, so you can see when you have things like posts and ad network ads, so post scheduled or published, ad network posts published or scheduled. I don't actually think that you guys will have this direct sponsorships quite yet. I think this is only because I have beta access, but this is something that's coming. But you can basically visualize and see your future. We'll cover that towards the end. We run an ad network where we go out and we find sponsors and basically pass them on to our users, so you can monetize and have your newsletter sponsored and make money without needing to go hire an ad team and do ad sales. This button up here, this globe button, is going to take you to your website. So it'll take you to the live version of your site. This help button we just covered, but there's a bunch of different resources here. Knowledge base, our AI assistant, our support team. You'll get access to this live support through your free trial. And then after that, the live support is a feature of our paid plans. Other than that, though, we have our blog with like nearly 1,000 articles, 500 videos on our YouTube channel, which is video tutorials here, like 500 video tutorials, We have Newsletter XP, which is our newsletter operators course. We have a glossary of terms, all the past webinars, product updates, and so forth. Pretty much after 3 years of running this business, we've got it down to a science around how we create tutorials and documentation around features. And for the most part, you can find pretty much any answer you need through a combination of these tools. Next is the wallet. So if you come to the wallet, this is going to show you your earnings and where you can do withdrawals and whatnot. So pretty self-explanatory. This is just where the money comes in and out. We're moving towards a model where like your wallet will be more of a central part of the experience, where if you earn money, you can pay for your beehiiv subscription through your wallet. You can pay for boosts and stuff like that through earnings and ad network and earnings coming out here, and basically a unified system. Right now, it's mostly around the ad network and boosts where money is going to come in or out. Share and Earn covers our partner program. So we have a partner program, affiliate program. Once you use beehiiv, if you are a person who comes to love and wants to be an evangelist to beehiiv, we share the success that we have with our customers with anybody who refers customers to us. So if you were to refer a customer to us, we split that revenue from those customers 50-50 for 12 months. So that's on any size plan, scale, max. And I think there might be a cap on enterprise deals, but we've paid out $30,000 at a single time for somebody who sent us a huge enterprise deal. There's also a kind of cool program here. If you do decide that you want to get more involved in the affiliate network, we run a promotion every quarter where the top affiliate by net new sales, we send them on an all expenses 7-day, 6-night vacation to a location that we announce. So I don't recall where this, is it under here? Troyo is running away with it. See, we paid out Troy $26,000 or third quarter. Yeah, we should actually include here. I'll pass it to our team. But essentially, this beehiiv Beach Club, we've sent people to Maui, to the Bahamas, to Aruba. Basically, it's all expenses paid for 2, airfare and a hotel and stuff like that, on top of what you get paid from the partnership. We value our partners very highly and want to keep them happy and rewarded. All right, so from here, I'm going to move to the post editor. There's a couple different ways to get into posts. If you click start writing, it's going to take you right into a new draft. If we drop down here, we're going to be able to create a blank draft or use a template. Templates are created from drafts. So once you create a post that you really like the format of, you can save that post as a template, and you can then access and start not from scratch, but you can start from that template place. I'm going to go into the post view to just give you guys a quick view. Once you start publishing, we have this search functionality where you can search past posts. You can filter by a bunch of different criteria. As you start to have a backlog, it becomes more and more helpful to be able to like identify and find certain posts. This is going to be your feed. So you can see posts that I've archived, that are drafts, that are published, and so forth. So I'm going to actually open up 2 things. I'm going to start on the website. I'm going to go and I'm going to share. This is the most recent post that I published, and just to go through and show what we're working with. Specifically, this is the version for a user who is a premium subscriber, because I'm logged in up here and this account has a premium subscription. If I click this, it's going to start playing an audio version of the newsletter that I've embedded using this 11 Labs player. It's also not going to show the ads in here or calls to action to upgrade to premium, because this user is already a premium user. But I'm going to get into kind of how you set all those visibility settings and how you can basically publish once, but essentially create a bunch of these various experiences for free users, for anonymous users, for paid users, all at the same time. But as we look in here, we see dynamic content. This is, and like I said, audio widget where they can listen to the newsletter, images, regular text. This is a link styling, columns, more images, more columns. We have down here like content breaks. We have polls. So I always ask, do you think this experience is worth the price tag? A little trivia to make it a little engaging. So what does Shikishima mean in Japanese? And then we have down here a social embed that shows the Instagram post of the previous post that I made about the last article, past editions. So these are internal links that I created here, a satisfaction survey, comments down below, keep reading. So this is automatically deployed on the website so we can basically keep users moving along the journey. And so what I'm about to jump into is basically going to be covering how we create a post that looks or is very rich in terms of the functionality and features. And this is just one example. The sky is the limit, but you don't have to. It's just, I find it helpful to be able to see a real example. All right, cool. So I'm jumping into this draft that I've prepared previously. It doesn't actually have all of the images and stuff that I would add. I think I still have to add, I'd have to go through and add the images. But if I click here on this preview button, I can see right now what it's going to look like both on email and on the web, as well as on desktop and mobile. So super convenient for being able to just ahead of time know what a post is going to look like. I can also basically simulate or masquerade as a subscriber. So right now, this is just what it's going to look like to free subscribers. If I had a different version for premium subscribers, or I can even look in specific users, I can basically masquerade as or simulate as specific users. Going back here, to start just from the top, this is where we're going to add the thumbnail, so I can upload a new image or use a previous one. I can also add content tags. Content tags are valuable for creating the search and filtering functionality on the main website. Generally, you're going to pick tags that you're able to group content by. In my example, I have different content tags for geographical areas as well as experiences. Say North America is going to filter by all of the experiences that I've tagged as North America. Hotels is going to be tagged as all of the experiences that are hotels. And if I do both, it's going to filter both. If I do Africa, for example, it's going to show me this one. So definitely recommend leveraging content tags. Title of the newsletter, this is going to be the default subject line. You can change the subject line though, you're not tied to that. And then the subtitle is also going to show up on the website default as your preview text, and you can set that separately. Adina, I will cover that, and I can show you exactly how I do that in a few minutes. If you have multiple authors, you can set them here, and then we get into the actual writing of the content. So you can see I've already added a bunch of content here, but if I wanted to add more content, let's just, as an example, jump here. The experience within the editor is built around this idea of the palette widget. So by / you're going to open up this entire widget of this palette of all of the different widgets that we offer. So you're going to have the styling and formatting ones here. These are all going to be ways that you can basically create and structure content. Yes, absolutely. Because if I sorry, to answer the question, Emily. Yes, the newsletters that we create in beehiiv, you don't have to publish them to the website, but like, why wouldn't you? If you just send the email, then the only people who are seeing your content are the people who are on your email list. You don't actually have any future people being able to see your past content. So we recommend publishing to both email and web, but if you look at a bunch of different examples, Morning Brew, basically this is their content. Basically all of these newsletter platforms, for good reason, post the content on their website. The Skim as well. These are just two examples, but you look at Axios, you look at all these. The entire point is to create content that's engaging, that users can discover and users can engage with. And so why restrict that to email? Our websites are fully optimized for search engines, so you can actually also attract and get subscribers through SEO if you're a marketer and you want to invest in learning how to do SEO. It's a great growth strategy. But yeah, so when you're creating content, like I said up here, when we look at the preview, you can see what it's going to look like on web. You can see what it's going to look like on email. I'm just getting ahead of myself a little bit, but once you have the draft, this is where you'll select your audience. So you don't have to post to web. You can just only post to email if you want to keep it email only. Similarly, if you wanted to use the platform as more of a blog, you don't actually have to publish to email at all. You can just publish to the website. That gets ahead of where we're talking a little bit. I will answer the questions. I just wanted to finish this thought down here. So we open up the widget palette, sorry. These are like kind of the formatting things. So these are things for you to structure and create the content, things like headings. These are those embeds. So we support, if you want to upload an audio file, as well as these different social media platforms. We support all of the ones that have an API for creating a rich embed. LinkedIn's missing because they don't have that functionality. Facebook also doesn't have that functionality. So these would be just regular embedded links. Lastly, down at the bottom here, we have the premium widgets. So these are going to be all features that are on our paid plan. But if you wanted to add an advertisement from our ad network, it's as simple as one click. And you just select the ad that has been provisioned and it shows up here. Similarly, you can extend the same thing for the rest of these. So AI Writer is going to help you refine, translate, extend, shorten, change the tone of your content. Referral Program is a built-in tool that allows every individual user to have a unique referral link so that when they share your newsletter with their colleagues or friends, they get credit, and you can build a milestone-based program where maybe they get free access to a premium subscription or a sticker or a mug or a backpack or whatever. You basically can build whatever referral program you want, but this is a one-click way to deploy that within your newsletter. Paywall breaks, if you do run a premium subscription, a paywall break is essentially wherever you place it, users can see anything above the paywall break, but below the paywall break will only be accessible to paying users, and free users will be prompted to upgrade. For example, if I wanted to make it so that only users who are on a paid plan can see below this point. I'd add the paywall break right here, select the plan. This is what it's going to look like. And then if I preview as a free subscriber, it's going to tell me that I have to upgrade to be able to read the rest. Let's see. Paywall break, polls. I shared before how much I like to use polls. I think I keep them down here. Polls are a way to collect feedback, to drive engagement, to create social content, to prioritize what content to build next. I use this one specifically as a satisfaction survey, but I have this way where I can basically create a very simple poll that users can select whatever answer, and it helps me track the performance and gather feedback. Where are we at? We're down here. So let's see. We got polls, HTML snippets. So anything that you can't build within the actual platform, if you want to bring in an embed and build that with regular HTML, you can do that as well. Recommendations are a feature where you can cross-promote with friends or acquaintances or partners. Boosts allow you to monetize your audience by having them subscribe to other newsletters that will pay you for those referrals. And then I mentioned the RSS functionality before, where you could pull in content from an RSS feed on our Max plan. All of these features are well documented within our knowledge base. So if you have deeper questions about the specific features, you can either ask questions in the chat and we can direct you to that documentation. But from there, within the editor, there's a couple other things to note. So we have this backlinks feature. So you can two things. With curly braces, you can insert custom fields, which are ways that we collect user data. So if you have a custom field, for example, first underscore name, you add the pipe, which is going to indicate the default or the fallback. And then so you can see that it's active because it's gray. Now, if I was to send this to a subscriber, if I have a first name in that first name field, it's going to replace that with their first name. If they don't have their first name, it's just going to say friend. So I could say something like, hi friend, or hi EJ. If I go to the preview, regenerate, but I'll show you what this looks like basically as a user. So here, go to this one. Yep. So it's going to say hi EJ. If it's just a generic free subscriber, it's going to say hi friend. Simple. I mentioned backlinks. So in terms of SEO, backlinks are a really valuable thing to be able to cross-link your posts. So with the square brackets, you can basically open up this menu that's going to show you a list of all your past posts. For example, maybe you're writing a piece and you want to reference something you did in the past. You can do that with the backlinks feature. Those backlinks then show up on this menu, and you can see ones that are either outgoing, meaning going to other posts, or ones that are incoming, meaning that they are coming into the current. I mentioned at the beginning collaboration features. At the top here, you can see this highlighted area with this yellow. This is where I actually left a comment where I said I tagged this person, which is just me, but you can tag users just like Google Docs, say, hey, can you write a new opening here? When that gets done, or if I had questions to clarify, I could add a comment. Users are going to be notified from comments and when they're tagged. And when the comment is resolved, I can hit the check button and it's going to remove it. I can filter by open comments, resolved comments, mine or anyone else's. And then if you can see up here, this like little circle, I'll zoom in a little bit. When you have multiple people within the editor, you're going to see there we go. I had trouble getting my video for a second. When you have multiple people in the document at the same time, you're going to see those icons here. So right now there's only one, but if I had multiple people in here, you'd be able to see their cursor on the screen and you can edit collaboratively in real time. And so that can be really valuable if you are working with a team. Lastly, say you're working with a team, but for example, somebody makes a change that isn't so good and you want to revert it. We have this change history. So again, just like Google Docs, you can look at past versions and restore versions from the past so nothing is lost. I mentioned at the beginning, you can save things as a template. So if you find a format that works really well, you've put a lot of work into building out the design and the layout. Sorry, really not the design, but the layout of the article. You can save that template here, just give it a name, and then you can access it from that template menu that we showed at the beginning. And lastly, I like to show this view. This might actually answer some questions you guys might have, but basically if you look at this version, not only does it look very different than the preview that I showed. So if I go back to the preview here, this looks very different than what in the editor. There's like the pink background, there's much more a different font. There's some of the styling is a bit different. And if we look at right now it's only web. So I gotta go back here, out in the email version as well. Back. If I go back to preview, I can now see the email version. The email version even looks different than the web. So, we've got this outline. We've got this section where there's a different background. This is an ad unit that's only shown to our free users. But essentially, the point is those experiences look different than what we see in the editor right here. And that's done very much on purpose. The idea of this platform is that we have bifurcated the design from the actual content publishing and drafting. The idea being, we've worked with our team when we started building this company, had worked with basically all the tools out there. And most email tools out there essentially have you do the design while you're doing the drafting. You create a new widget and then you have to update the fonts and you have to mess around with the spacing, and it takes way, way longer than it should. So the way that we design this is that we have this basically design lab, it's newsletter builder, whatever you want to call it, that you can access from the sidebar and from the editor, where we show you basically a mock-up of what in this case, the newsletter is going to look like. And you can modify every little bit of how the look and the feel is going to work. And by doing it here, you have very granular control over what it's going to look and feel like. And then when you go back to the editor, so if we go to exit, when you get to the actual writing experience, all you have to focus on is simply writing your article. You don't have to worry about all of the design and all of the spacing and whatnot. You've already set that up once, and then you don't have to touch it again. You can just draft and you write the content, and then it's going to automatically look pixel perfect when you go to the preview. In this case, for the email, there's a separate web builder where you can basically do the web design. But the idea is you're not doing the designing while you do the drafting. You can focus and get into that deep work. So to get to the newsletter builder, you click this settings button, the settings tab from here. If you're from the menu, you can actually do it under this design tab. So newsletter builder, and then website designer. So from there, I think I had one more thing to cover before we get into the sending settings. Yeah, I just covered Design Lab. That's under this design tab. The custom fields would get into. I'm seeing the question here for custom fields. So custom fields are set under the subscriber tab in this section. We typically get into that a little bit later, but yeah, if you're jumping around a little bit. So there's that. You just go to create, you name it, and then it is accessible. Coming back here, Cassandra, there are, by default, you have a very kind of basic template. We have web templates for the websites that with our new web builder that's releasing in about a month, where we have a gallery of, I think we're launching with about 20 templates. Newsletter templates, we don't have so many templates for, but that is something that's coming. We're basically building the corollary to the web builder template gallery for the actual newsletters themselves. We stayed away from that at first just because most newsletters look totally different. There really is no one size fits all. And in fact, most people don't want their newsletter to look very templated. We do have a resource, though, that I created that I can drop in the chat here, where we have several different, where is it? There we go. Quick Start Newsletter templates. I'll drop this in the chat. Basically, this is a tool that we built. Oh, it's not working. Why is the chat not working? Okay. It's basically beehiiv.notion.site/build-like-the best. So let me zoom in there. Oh, it's not even zooming in the right way, but you can see that on your screen. beehiiv.notion.site/build-like-the-best. Try to include that in the chat as much as we can. If we can, maybe it'll show up in a minute. But anyway, I have some instructions on how to use it, but these are just some newsletters that kind of famous newsletters in different categories where if you come into here, for example, The Morning by New York Times, we have an edition of the newsletter. And then basically what we do is we describe the design settings, the exact settings to set within your design lab. And then we actually literally have this copy paste. You copy all of this and you paste it right into your editor, and then you save that as a template. And so then when you come in, you would just replace the image, for example, with the image. And that's going to basically allow you to replicate what you see here. So there's a bunch of different examples. There's the Skim, there's, I think, Morning Brew, there's Axios, there's a bunch of different ones here that, depending on what you like, you can basically copy and paste. But again, like I said, we have yeah, I tried to drop it in the chat. For some reason, Riverside's really screwing us and is not allowing us. It's beehiiv.notion.site, and it's /build-like-the-best with, instead of spaces, there's just going to be hyphens. Build like the best. Let me see if I can actually show better. Thank you so much, Vatsala. I don't know why you can post stuff and we can't. That's annoying, but not your fault, obviously. All right, cool. So jumping back into things here, I'm going to go back to the post. We're in the post. So we've drafted the content. Yeah, Adina. So yes, the answer is yes. We have a website we have a website builder that is literally like a from scratch website builder, similar to Webflow or WordPress or Squarespace or Wix, like literally as powerful as any of those, that is in beta right now and has a gallery of 20 different websites. So you can just one click and have a website that looks really professional, that's completely unique. That's in beta for our Max users right now, but will be available to all users, customizable for all users on our paid plans. I believe that when we launch, we plan to launch so that all users, free included, can use at least some of the templates, but may not be able to customize them. Anyway, so we got to the point we're ready to send. I already covered this, but this is where you select your audience, so web or email or both. We also, as we'll cover in a few minutes, we have a tool called Segments, which is basically a way for you to segment your list or create sublists. With that functionality, you can create segments and you can include specific segments or exclude specific segments. So say I have a group of people that I only want to send it to that's not, obviously not free or paid, because I can do that with these settings. So email settings, web settings. But within the email settings, say there's a group of people I want to specifically send to. In this case, the segment I have set up is my Instagram followers. So say I want to send a newsletter just to the people I acquired from Instagram, I can include just that segment. And as you can see, it's going to send to just the email to just those users. Similarly, if I select to send to all subscribers, I can also exclude a specific segment. So maybe I want to exclude those people who came from Instagram ads. I can just click that and it will exclude them. So now that number went from 304 to 141. Very flexible, easy to take segmentation and use it to qualify who you're going to be sending your messages to. Yes, I will cover how to do segments in a minute. That comes up in just a second, in a few moments. Once you get to the email settings, here's where you can set up, if you want to do an A/B test, it's one of our features, you can A/B test your headline. Short of that, you're going to set the subject line, set the preview text. These are just settings that visually will drop in different widgets. So by default, I have these turned off. But for example, if I wanted to turn on the social buttons and the likes and comments button, by flipping those, it's going to update and add these right here. It's useful noting these are not for your socials. Like these are so that if a user clicks this, it's going to share your article to their. So it doesn't really matter if you're not on Threads. Like this would not be for your Threads account. This is so that a user could share it to their Threads account. For web settings, we have much more in-depth like SEO. It's very focused around SEO. So you can say your title for your blog post you want it to be, or your web post you want it to be different than your email subject line or the one that lives on your website. You can customize those settings here. You can see a preview of how it's going to look in Google. You can also customize, say you want your search engine version to look different than the one that gets shared on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter. You can also change that through the settings down below. If, for example, you want to hide a post from your feed, you don't want it to show up in the archive, you just select that and it'll hide it from the feed. And again, if you haven't set a thumbnail, it'll allow you can click there to set a thumbnail. We have tools to do built-in pop-ups, as well as you can gate content. So gated content just means a user can't even read the content until they subscribed. If you want to set those settings locally for a specific post, you can do that here. We also have the ability to set those settings across your entire newsletter. So you don't have to specifically define them here. And then for comments, just a couple different options around comments and who should be able to comment and who can see comments. Once we've solved all of this, we're going to go to the review step. Before we send, I recommend going into the settings from this menu. You can send this to anybody you want to review the draft. So this is going to send them a link that they can then view the preview of your email. Similarly, if you want to send a test email, you can basically select yourself or enter somebody else's email here so that you can send a test. If you wanted to appear as an actual subscriber would see it, you can do that. You can select a simulated subscriber, and that's just going to replace any of the custom fields with that user's data. So you can actually see what it would look like from a live perspective and send that test email. Once the tests have been approved and they look great, we're going to either hit schedule or publish now. So you can select the time here, or you can publish immediately and you hit publish now and it's going to send. So that's basically taken us from getting your settings set up through to drafting a post, through to actually setting the settings around sending a post, getting to post send. As I promised, it would take about an hour. We're literally exactly at an hour on the dot. We're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so going through the actual kind of meat and potato features. Obviously, the center of the experience is the publishing experience. And so for the next time, we're going to cover the additional kind of features around it. So once you started sending your articles, you're in that cadence and you're in that flow, there's a bunch of tools in here that are going to help you better engage your audience and grow. I know there's some questions in the chat, so I'm going to jump in there and answer some of those. What are we referring to when we say web builder templates? I covered that one. Can I zoom in? I use Kit. How does this compare to Kit? We are better than Kit in virtually every way by design. Just aim to be better than them. Analytics, better analytics, more features to engage users with content within the email newsletter, better and more customization of those emails. our web capabilities even without our new web designer. We have both better design capabilities and more flexible design capabilities and better technical SEO. When it comes to growth features, or monetization features, we have an ad network that's open to all paid users. We have paid recommendations in the form of boosts built right in, and our paid subscriptions profile is more robust. As far as growth features, we have a bunch of growth features built in, some of which they don't have. And anything that they may have that we don't have yet, we are building. I think before they had the App Store, we just launched our App Store today. It might be a little bit more developed because they launched theirs a couple months ago, but we'll be catching up there. I'd say where ConvertKit, if they do better, if you are running right now, if you're running like a digital storefront, we're not heavily indexed around product sales or digital product sales. That's being unlocked by this new web builder that we're building. In the next 3 months or so in Q2, we are launching more functionality around selling digital products and one-off stuff. Right now, our sales are around like subscription type sales. But in Q2, we're building out, based on our website, native link in bio tool and product sales. So once we launch the product suite, that's when we're going to be a better platform to sell courses. Right now you could, but it's a little bit not as smooth. But yeah, products selling access to communities, access to courses, coaching calls, all of those things will be enabled by our digital storefront functionality. That's coming, like I said, in Q2. Yeah, so I think that it might not be in the author profile, but it is in the website profile. So if we go to settings, yeah, no, that's right. I'll go back to the old one. Okay, yeah, this is the new experience. Let's go back to it. So social links, Blue Sky, Discord, Threads, TikTok. So this is where you would set those for your publication. For the authors, it's actually way less present, but I will drop that note to our team to add it here. That's a good call out. There was a question. Okay, so Toddy had the question about Instagram. So Toddy, those users were actually users that I acquired through ads, and I ran ads to get those users, so they actually signed up. It wasn't just like they were followers or anything like that. They were folks that I sent an ad to that they came to my website and signed up. But we'll get into that here. Starting from the top, audience tab, subscribers. So once you have your subscribers listed here, you can see their email, their status. So active means subscribed, inactive means unsubscribed. Add tags. You can see what tier, what free versus premium, when they subscribed and where they came from. If we click on the individual subscriber, you can see all of the data you have about the user. These are some of their unique links, acquisition details. These are custom fields in the values. So as I showed before in the demo, like I had a field set for first name. I also have the data for gender and dream destination. This is myself. So of course I have that data. You can see the historical performance over all time of this user, which is me. Since I launched this publication, since I sent my last post, we've added much more robust geographical tracking. So this is based on when users have clicked an email. I just haven't clicked an email since we launched this feature, but essentially if a user has clicked, we can visualize where they clicked from based on IP. And then of course, if you want to see their history and any events or behavior that they've engaged in with your publication, you can see that by clicking these tabs right here. You can also interact with them and basically affect their account. You can delete them, reset their password, or send them a password reset link, add them to an automation, grant them complimentary access to a paid tier, or unsubscribe them from this menu up here. Going back to the subscribers tab, we looked at custom fields. We saw those before. Naming conventions, I typically do the underscore, but you can also do camel case, which is just like when there's a new word, you do an uppercase letter. There's not really necessarily a right way to do it, but recommend just consistency once you choose one. But yeah, there's no right or wrong way here. Tags are just a different way to group users. They tend to be more characteristics about a group rather than personal characteristics about a single user. And preferences allow you to set up preferences that users can set in their settings. Typically, this is going to be used if you have something like a daily newsletter, and you want to give users the option to only be sent to weekly. So if they are getting it daily, instead of unsubscribing, you can say, hey, why don't you just scale back in a weekly newsletter to do a weekly newsletter? It's a little bit more of an advanced thing. It uses the custom fields to track those, but we have plenty of documentation if that's something of interest. You can explore preferences. Our support team is willing to help there as well. We talked about segments before. So this is that segmentation I was talking about. Basically, I came in here and said, show me all of the users where the UTM medium, which is just like the UTM parameter for the medium, the nature in which they came into my platform is CPC and source is Instagram. I tagged my ads with these characteristics. And so when I create this segment, I'm able to then see that my users from Instagram ads have an open rate of 33.6%, have a 5% click-through rate, et cetera. I can also obviously send and use the sending functionality to that. We have a huge number of parameters which you can use to basically create segments. I think this is actually another area where our platform shines. Virtually any attribute or characteristic or engagement metric or signal that a user has taken, you can use to build segments. So this list of 10 or 15 items is like literally just the first level. Once you click like attribute, for example, we then have this other huge list of like other attributes. So it's really, your imagination is really like the limit to how you can slice and dice this audience. Usually what you'll do is think about, okay, what am I trying to do? What information am I trying to derive? How am I trying to visualize this segment? And then think back logically, like how can I identify characteristics of that audience? It's a pretty broad, open-ended topic, so usually don't go into tons of detail here. But we have lots of documentation, support team ready and willing to help, and we're happy to answer any specific questions there. Automations have come a long way. We launched these at the end of last year, and in the last year, we spent the entire year building on top of those. So now we have a really cool offering for automations. We have, I think, 7 or 8 different triggers that you can trigger any kind of automation off of, whether it's user signs up, upgrades, downgrades, becomes inactive. You can manually add users to an automation. You can add users to an automation through the API. There's pretty much infinite flexibility with this as well. But essentially, automations are going to have a trigger. And then when that trigger is fired, that's going to then kick off these different actions. User enters this automation when they sign up. They're immediately sent an email. And in this case, we have a couple different steps after that where maybe they wait for 3 days and then they're sent a second email. And then they wait for another time period and then they're branched into different categories based on maybe actions they've taken and characteristics about their account. Again, this is super, super flexible. It's really up to your imagination, but you can build really incredibly diverse experiences here. If you are using another platform like a Gumroad or a Shopify to sell products or sell courses, or if you have a meeting link that you're selling coaching hours or whatever for, you can basically use the API trigger by API with a tool like Zapier or Make to basically enter users in that way. So fully compatible with most types of commerce that you may be doing if you want to do that. What we don't have is like a product feed, or this would not be a good use for stuff like a abandoned cart email or like a marketing, like a abandoned, like you were browsing the site and we saw that you were looking at this type of email, like an actual traditional e-com type email. But if you have something where it's somebody signs up for a session and you want to send them a couple emails before their session, you can do that here. Let's see, automations, polls I mentioned before. I have all of these polls. I always ask whether they think the experience is worth it, and satisfaction polls. This is a good one because it has some results. Within this tool, we're going to be able to see the poll questions and where it was used, and then the results for the poll. So we're sitting about 50-50 for yes and maybe. But this can be really useful. This is one of the, I'd say, most underrated features and certainly underused features, in that the other day when I was doing a list of these, there's 7 different use cases for polls that are additive. So one, they increase engagement with your users and they make them feel like they're part of the journey with you. They drive positive engagement signals within the inbox, so you're going to get better deliverability. They give you data about your audience that you can use in socials. So if I click the share results button and then go to X or LinkedIn or wherever and I paste it, you get this great Wordle style shareable snippet. So it helps you create first party unique content that you can share on socials. Really useful also if you have some ideas around content you might want to create, like a lead magnet. You could say, hey, which of these lead magnets would you want to sign up for? What content should I write about? You can have your audience basically tell you that. And then, of course, the satisfaction survey gives you a baseline for how much your users are liking or maybe not liking your content. And so once you have that baseline, you can very easily see, cool, I normally get 3 or 4 thumbs up. And this article I posted, I got 10 thumbs up. That means like my audience really like this content. Maybe I should double down on that. Really useful for finding that content market fit that's so important for success. Surveys are our form tool. So you have a similar canvas to the automations builder. But in this case, you can set these questions up. You can share these surveys by URL. So you could share this on social and basically say, hey, I'm taking a survey, answer this survey to get the results or however you want. But these answers are all stored as custom fields, very self-explanatory to add new ones. You're just going to go, because it's active, I can't actually add one right here. But when it's not live, you can basically go through and add questions as you see fit. But basically, this is used in a couple different places. By default, you can set this to be a subscribe survey, which means it's going to be shown to users after they subscribe. You can also separately, it can't be set to be a subscribe and an unsubscribe survey, but you can, if you had a second survey, you can also set that to be a unsubscribe survey. So it's going to be once users click the unsubscribe button, they're going to be asked to answer some questions. But again, you can also just share that directly with the URL. This is really useful within, if you include a survey or a form within a newsletter, if you copy the URL, one of the custom fields that we offer is for email. So if you add the brackets and then you do email, this is going to insert a user's email address into the text. So what you can do is if you have a survey, you get the survey form URL and you add email equals, and then that field for email, this is going to make it so that the form is automatically validated. By default, if I go to an unvalidated survey, it's going to say you have to subscribe before you can answer the poll. If I, for example, in my newsletter add email equals email and have users click it, essentially when it gets sent to an individual subscriber, it's going to fill in their email so that when they arrive, it's going to be pre-validated. So it's just a kind of shortcut there to make sure that if you are sending a survey to existing users, you can make it so that they are automatically let into the form. Cool. Lastly, subscribe forms. I heard somebody was working on Squarespace or maybe on an external site. We have these external embed forms where you can just grab this code, copy and paste it into an custom HTML widget. Most platforms have that. And it's going to basically drop in a subscribe form that's automatically going to collect user information. There's 3 different options here. One is going to be a full width, so it's going to go the entire width of the page or the widget. This one's going to be fixed width, so it's going to be more of like a square. And then this one down here is just going to be the email capture and the button. And that covers all of our audience growth features. Let me check here. We have a couple of things here. Can I have a publications multi-language and global? So right now, our publications are single language. That's something we have considered, basically publish once, but it be like multiple different languages. We haven't offered that quite yet. But by default, all of your newsletters are going to be accessible globally. Can segment be done retroactively? Yes, 100%. So that segmenting is whenever you run a segment, it's going to basically, there's 3 different types. Sometimes I say that, but it's not always useful. So static is going to basically be a list and it doesn't change. It's going to just be static at one point in time. Dynamic is basically going to change over time. So when you run a segment, it's going to pull back anybody over all time who fits that criteria. But if it's a dynamic segment, it's also going to be living and add users to that segment as they meet the criteria. Manual just means like you can set this from a manual list upload. So common use case here is you go to a trade show or something, you do an in-person event and you collect a list of email addresses and you either collect them in a Google Doc or like you maybe collect them by hand with pen and paper. And you want to upload that list to a segment so that they get added to your main list, but you might want to keep track of that specific sub-segment over time. Manual is not used all that often, but for users with like specific use cases, it's really helpful to have. If we want to start selling online workshops or coaching, what would be the best way to do that on here? So with any of these, we have the ability to do custom pages that are different than posts that are not going to show up in your main feed. What typically users would do is they'd access a custom page and then basically create a sales page and then from that sales page, just link to their Stripe account with a checkout for whatever that service was, and then deliver that service with whatever tool they're doing. If it's coaching, maybe then it's like they get entered into an automation that delivers the link for them to sign up for the coaching slots. If it's an online workshop, could be very similar where users then can get access to the link to RSVP. Cool. We just have a few minutes left. I have a bit more to cover. Not going to go super in depth here, but referral program, one of our marquee features, we launched with this one. We basically make it super easy to, within your email, drop in a widget that allows users to share your newsletter and get rewarded. So in this case, I set up a very simple where with one referral, users get access to a year of free of the premium version. With 3 referrals, they get a sticker. With 10 referrals, they get a hat. With 20 referrals, they get a tote bag. Essentially, when they open their email, they're going to basically see a message that says, hey, so you have 0 referrals. You are 1 away from getting a free year of Vacation Voyeur access. You have 2 referrals. You are 1 away from getting a virtual vacation sticker, a Vacation Voyeur sticker. We have a breakdown of who's earned those rewards as well as this leaderboard. The process for creating those new referrals is pretty straightforward. We have a very easy step-by-step process here. Also fully documented. It's our oldest feature. So lots of documentation on how to use that. Recommendations is a way to cross-promote in an organic way. And so really quickly, I'll take a little sidebar to show you basically what a typical or what kind of a very efficient, optimized sign-up experience would look like with all of our kind of recommended features. So if I come in here and enter my email, when I hit subscribe, first I'm going to be shown this widget that basically shows all of the recommendations that this publication is making. You'll notice that there's a couple up here that say sponsored. These are going to be the recommendations that I would be getting paid for if a subscriber comes and checks these and subscribes to these other newsletters. The ones below without that badge are ones that I'm recommending organically. So these are just newsletters that I like, that I think would provide value to my subscribers. And I want to provide value so that they see me as an authority and that they build some trust. Different than most other platforms, we don't pre-check all of these, which we could pre-check it and people would have more growth and they'd love that. But the experience from the user's perspective goes way down. Your deliverability suffers and it actually causes a bunch of problems because most users, they're just trying to get through if they're not paying attention, they may just be trying to get to the next screen. And so if they're all pre-checked, they just start getting a bunch of newsletters that they didn't know that they're subscribing to, which they then never open, which then decreases your deliverability. If I'm just going to skip through here because I'm not going to commit fraud by clicking my own here. Cool. So this is just giving me a warning because I've already subscribed and have a premium subscription. But if I didn't, by clicking X, I can see the different offerings here. This is totally flexible. This is just the way I've built my page. You can have different tiers. You can have one tier like I have here for a monthly and yearly. We also have the functionality to do like bronze, silver, gold, etc. I'm going to skip this. I mentioned at the beginning multi-pub functionality. If you do run multiple publications, there's a step here where you can show users the other publications that you run. And otherwise, at the end of it, you can then redirect them to whatever page. Some users like to redirect them to a custom page that says, hey, now that you're subscribed, you go check your email, add me to your contact list, and respond to that email with how you discovered me. It helps a little bit of deliverability and helps with starting that relationship. Those settings on how to set up that subscribe flow are actually under Website Builder, under Settings, just to give you an idea of where they exist. Under Sign Up Flow, once the different features are turned on, you can set them here. And so you don't have to have all of them. You can have some of them. This is just where they exist. But I like to show that because it's really valuable for context when we look at these features. Recommendations, these are ones that I'm personally recommending. I've sent 93 subscribers to Air Travelers Club, for example. If I look at this tab, I can see who's recommending me. Own the Watch has sent me 4 subscribers. So I've grown for free by 4. Again, these are the organic side. The paid side is what we call the Boost Marketplace, where I would basically be paying for growth. Magic links are more of a niche feature, but if you are doing a partnership with a tool that's not on beehiiv, we support magic links for, I think, 16 different platforms. Essentially, you're going to choose the platform you want to partner with, and then basically copy this link and give it to that partner. When their subscribers receive the email and they click the link that says, hey, click here to subscribe on so-and-so's newsletter, they're going to automatically be subscribed. No additional steps. They don't have to enter their email or anything like that. They're going to be automatically subscribed. So it's a very easy way to do partnership. Cool. So this is the grow side of the Boost Marketplace. If I wanted to grow, I could create an offer where I specifically say how much I want to pay per subscriber. And this offer is going to go to the marketplace. I can also set quality controls. Travelers, I'm willing to pay $2.50. That's a pretty hefty, strong offer. Say standard quality. So this is going to basically put these users, once they do come to get subscribed to me through recommendations, it's going to actually monitor them to make sure that they're engaged and adding to my performance. If they're unengaged, like if they never open an email, I don't pay for them. So it's the only way available to ensure that when you spend $1 or $2 or whatever to acquire a user, not only are you guaranteeing that they are a real person and like part of the exact target audience that you're looking for, but you only pay if they actually open and engage with your newsletter. Here we go. I can set a custom, I can say, okay, I only want subscribers from the US, continue, and then email boosts are a way that users can drop those recommendations within emails themselves. Easy. I talked about analytics at the beginning of the call. We have these 3 subscriber reports that go very in-depth into subscriber performance. I'm going to gloss over them pretty high level just because we don't have that much time left. But here I can go really into the weeds across different dimensions of performance by source and medium and all kinds of stuff. I can also look at my performance across posts. If you're a growth marketer, if you're interested in growth, you're starting to grow a bit and you really need to understand where your performance is coming from. This is Tyler, our CEO, came from Morning Brew. They paid $500,000 to have a company build basically this for them, and it didn't work as well. And so our whole team obviously has a big background in analytics, but we took that learning and we're like, all right, we're going to take this and make it accessible to every user on the platform who's on one of the paid plans. So the last section here are our paid monetization features. I want to show these in the last couple minutes, and I'll answer any questions that may have popped up in the chat. Paid subscriptions, we covered overview of that screen, but essentially you have this great dashboard where you can see your paid subscribers over time, your revenue year to date, attribution, where those subscribers are coming from, breakdown in terms of the different offers that you might have. So we have the ability to create trials, discounts, complimentary access, and obviously full price. You can see performance of any plans that you've made around donations, gifts, and promotions. Within the paid tiers is where you're going to actually see the details around the actual offers themselves. So we have a lot of functionality in here. This product really competes with Memberful and Patreon. We have virtually the same functionality. Within here, you can create, again, like I said, different tiers. So bronze, silver, gold. You can say, hey, pay what you want, basically a donation model, and so forth, yearly, annual, one time. And then of course you have these offers. So you want to create a 7-day trial where at the end of that trial, users are then auto-charged and upgraded. You can do that. If you want to do a 7-day trial where you don't collect their credit card, you can do that. You can customize those paywalls that we covered earlier in the session. And then you can create complimentary gifts. So you can say, I'm going to gift this for 1 month. I'm going to provide complimentary access permanently, etc. We also integrate with Apple Pay. So you can make it so that if users are coming on their iPhone or in Safari, they can automatically upgrade with Apple Pay. Again, very well documented, can definitely provide any documentation that you might want there. We saw how boosts worked on the website. If I come to the offers page, this is where you're going to be able to see different offers. So in this case, say I want to look for travel newsletters that I want to boost and get paid for. My publication is English. I want to make sure that these are active. So I'm going to say they've had to have posted in the last 14 days. I want the subscribers to be targeted. I publish to the US. I want to align with the US. And then I don't actually have any kind of minimums around emails in terms of payouts. And I don't really care what size they are as long as they're willing to pay me. So those 4 different filters basically return this list where I can see, and let's actually sort this by highest payout. Basically, the 4 journals, this would probably actually be very good for me to align with because this newsletter seems to have a very aligned focus as mine, where I'm like covering the best experiences money can buy. This one is covering the world's most unique stays. So they're willing to pay $2 per subscriber. That seems like a great deal. I would basically then apply and say, hey, like my newsletter is all about the world's most exclusive, expensive experiences. We have a very similar audience, would love to boost your publication. And if that sounds like a good deal to them, they'll approve the application and then they will then show up on my boosts. Lastly, I don't have any ads provisioned at this moment. Actually, I do. I guess maybe this one came in while we were talking. When you have, for our ad network product, when you have an ad that's available, you'll get a notification that there's an ad available. You can come in here. In this case, it's the 1440, which is another newsletter. I can come in here and view the details. I can see 6 different versions in this case of the creative. So I can choose the one that makes the most sense for my newsletter. I can see the offer here. So $1 cost per click. So I'm going to make $1 every time someone clicks it. And it has to run in the next month. So I can then choose a date that I want to run it. Usually you'll have a certain day when you publish your newsletter. So you could go and say, okay, cool. I typically publish on Wednesdays. I'm going to put it in on next Wednesday. You can play around with the estimated payout. I just have a small audience. Once you run ads, you can see your reports here. So these are going to be generated. You can see the receipt for the payouts. And then these are, we won't get into this soon. This is new. So these are beta features. But soon, what we're offering through direct sponsorships is basically the ability, if you are doing your own ad buying, you don't want to go through our ad network, you are selling your own deals, you can basically leverage the same widgets in terms of placing your ad as we use for our ad network. You can also process your POs and your invoices through your Stripe account on beehiiv so that basically, one, you save a bunch of money. Typically, we charge a flat fee versus a percentage of that invoice. But more importantly, when you run your ad through that kind of tracked process, we generate all of the reporting and we generate everything that goes back to that you can then share back with the partner that you're working with. So we cut down a bunch of the time in terms of all that reporting and stuff like that. So that's coming soon. That's a beta feature now, but that'll be released in the next couple of weeks. Looks like there haven't been too many questions that have been added. We are at time. I'm happy to continue for the next couple of minutes. It looks like we're down to about 10 people. I really appreciate you guys sticking around today. I think Tony might have some questions for me that I can answer, but you guys showing up are the reason why we do this. It would be really silly to just talk to an empty room. And so I'm so appreciative of you. I'm so appreciative of my producer, Tony, who keeps things rolling in the background. If you guys have any questions, my email is EJ, the letters EJ at beehiiv.com. Super simple. Always happy to answer any questions. If it's a technical question or it's some sort of support issue, definitely first go to the support channel, because if it is that sort of thing, I'm just going to say, hey, this is a better thing for support. But I'm always happy to help with more strategic things, or if you guys need to be pointed in the right direction. I also love to plug, if this was useful, one of the perks of our paid plans is access to our Slack community, where we have 3,700 active sending publishers, where all times of day and night, there's tons of messages being sent back and forth. I basically wipe them all out, and then the next day I have like hundreds of messages back again. There's 20 different channels, from things like design, monetization, deliverability, recommendations, whatever you can imagine. There's people talking about it in the community. If you're on the fence, but at the end of your trial, maybe that pushes you over the edge. But thank you so much for your time. Tony, did you have anything for me before we wrap up? Yeah, can you restate that again? Give me 1 sec. Got it. The question was, what are the core automations that a newsletter operator should set up? So you pinged on Slack. So core automations every user should set up. Welcome series is first. Unengaged user series is second. So unengaged user series would basically be people who aren't opening or clicking your newsletter, cleaning them from your list. So we have documentation on both those things, but essentially you want to keep your list as lean and clean as possible so that you can maximize your deliverability. Aside from that, there's a bunch of different ones. If you're running a premium program, like a premium subscription, post-upgrade series there. If somebody downgrades from premium, win back series. If somebody subscribes, separate from the welcome series, you might have a specific upsell series where you try to get them to purchase a premium subscription. Other than that, a lot of times in the welcome series, what people will do is, first one will basically be like, hey, welcome, here's what you can do to make sure you receive all the emails. Maybe the next one is your greatest hits. The third one is a pitch for your premium program, etc. But those would be the kind of the core ones that typically come up. And then, of course, if you have, maybe you're running a course, an email course where it's 30 lessons in 30 days, you can do that. And you can set that up with automations too. There's a bunch of actual like productized functionality there. Yeah. So the question is, normally, how long does it take for a newsletter to take off if you're publishing consistently? There's really no one answer to that. Publishing consistently, I would tend to mean basically at least once a week. What really is much more important is your understanding of your audience and how targeted and aligned your content is to that audience. We have a bunch of webinars on our blog. If you go to again, we usually share this link, but I usually start all of my webinars with this advice about laying the groundwork. The number one thing, if you're a new user, rather than paying for features, this is terrible for me from a head of growth perspective, but like, your number one priority should be to simply get to a point where people are organically sharing your content because it's resonating with them. You don't need any of the growth features. You don't need a single one of them. We offer 2,500 subscribers on the free plan for a reason. It's because if you can grow to anywhere close to 2,000 or 2,500 subscribers organically without any of the paid features, then when you upgrade, those features are going to basically pour fuel on the fire. And if you can't get to that 2,000 subscriber mark, or you can't grow organically, none of those features are going to just be a magic bullet to help you grow. Your only priority is to basically create content that people rave about and love. And you do that by understanding who it is that you're talking to, who your target core audience is. I'll show you that how to access those previous webinars. Yeah, so real quick, before we go back, if you go to the blog.beehiiv.com, you can click that webinars tab, and this is where the past webinars are. Accessible. So the question was, how much analytics are accessible on the free plan versus paid? All of the analytics that you need are accessible to have visibility into how your posts are performing are available on the free plan. The only ones that are behind a paywall are the ones under this Analyze tab. Everything else here and under posts is available for free. So the question is, are most newsletter writers using AI, or are most of them writing it themselves? We've been around since the kind of rise of AI. Back in the day when we first started, nobody was using AI. I'd say there's a decent number of people using AI these days just because it makes it easier and lowers the bar to entry. Whether you should or not is not a judgment that it's my place to make. The kind of idea is, the kind of bar is basically, what is your audience willing to engage with? If your audience is willing to engage with AI created content, then do it. If you have a very discerning audience, or your content or your topic is something where you would benefit from a human perspective, then using AI is not going to help you necessarily. So it really comes down to, again, like, how can you best, that's weird. I didn't even hit the mute button, but it muted somehow. Anyway, basically, it's what your audience will sustain and what they're willing to be comfortable with. And you just have to test. If you're writing AI content because it's easier for you, but it's not creating content that's inspiring your readers, then like AI is probably not a great choice in that case. If you have any further questions or if you want to double click on those, I do have to jump, but my email again is ej@beehiiv.com. Little round of applause for you guys. Thank you again, Tony, for all of your help today. Really appreciate it. I hope this was valuable for the 9 of you guys who stayed, and I hope it was valuable for the rest who came by and left beforehand. Emily, Casey, Cassandra, Callie, there was a couple others, Christina, Toddy, Daniel, Adina. You guys are the ones I saw in the chat most of the time. Thank you so much for your engagement. David is there too. I might have said David twice. Alyssa, you guys now live on forever in the recording when everybody else is seeing this in the future. But if you're watching this as a recording, these were just amazing people who are asking tons of questions, engaging in the chat, and they're absolute legends. So thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your help. Don't be strangers. We're here to help. We're here to support you. We've built this company from the feedback and basically being held accountable by our users. And if we so we're totally comfortable with that. If you ever need anything that we're not holding up our end of the deal, hold us to it. We're very responsive across social media, across email, everywhere. We work for you guys. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend if you have plans. And we'll see you soon. We can't wait to see what you build. Thank you so much.